We're with Terrence Gaynor, CNN law enforcement analyst and former chief of the U.S. Capitol Police, and Paul Rieckhoff, who is an Army veteran and president of Righteous Media. He is also the founder of Iraq and Afghanistan Vets of America. Chief, to you first. This is, you were on CNN yesterday when we had learned of the third death by suicide, and then it turns out that there was a fourth. I mean, it feels like these numbers are just ticking up, and I wonder how you're reacting to this.
Every suicide or every death is tragic, and I think this again weighs on the officers. So I know the Metropolitan Police Department family support officers are working very hard with our officers, and it's the same up at the United States Capitol. But this additional trauma that happens on the 6th, adding on to how tough it's been in the past year for America in general, but officers in very difficult situations. Both police departments, the Capitol Police and the Metropolitan Police Department of Washington, were struck by a lot of people off and sick because of COVID, then the large disorders, and then this particular January 6th. This weighs heavy on everybody. And I think each one of the chiefs and officers are concerned. And Brianna and John, everybody has an obligation to look out and be mindful of everybody else.
I think that's something that everyone needs to take to heart. And certainly I hope that officers are being vigilant of each other. I suspect that they are. Paul, we've talked a lot in the past about mental health when it comes to the military, and we're seeing some parallels here. This was really a battle that these officers were in on January 6th. What are you thinking as you are seeing this news that 4 officers have died by suicide?
I'm thinking it's time to get serious about mental health in America and to really change the conversation. America's had a Me Too moment and a reckoning. We've had a Black Lives Matter racial justice reckoning. It's time for a mental health reckoning. We've lost 4 heroes who were in combat, in my view. I've worked with combat veterans for almost 20 years, fighting suicide, dealing with PTSD. What they experienced was traumatic, it was stressful, and then to deal with isolation and ridicule and a lack of resources. In my view, they are combat veterans, and they're facing many parallels that combat veterans face. And maybe most of all, feeling disconnected, sometimes feeling hopeless, feeling like they're alone. And I want to send a message to them, and I hope you'll compound that they're not alone. There's help out there. And then reaching out for help is a sign of strength, not weakness. And it's happening the same time we're talking about Simone Biles. So I think there's an intersection here that's very powerful. Both can send a message that mental health support is necessary, resources are inadequate, and we need to change the entire national conversation and let people know that reaching out is strength. It's not weakness. You're not alone, and help is out there. But this has to be a full court press across the entire country and really around the world in dealing with a mental health challenge.
We know suicide, Paul, is very complex. And you can't know what happened to each officer that contributed to this. But you mentioned ridicule. And I wonder, do you think that the politicization of this event is something that exacerbates mental health for officers?
In my experience, yes. I mean, imagine a veteran coming home and being ridiculed in the same way after serving in Iraq or Afghanistan. There is no silver bullet in dealing with suicide. It's a complex series of factors, but we know that hope is key and that connection is key. And these people who are ridiculing survivors of an assault and a really traumatic experience, it's not just disgusting, it's dangerous, because not only does it compound the experience they're having, it also discourages other people from coming forward. Think about a young person who maybe is dealing with a trauma and sees this kind of ridicule and says, if I come forward, maybe I'm going to get ridiculed. So we need to blow up that entire misguided, dangerous part of this discussion in America and really focus on support, strength, understanding mental health, and continuing to pour resources in. Our Capitol Hill cops shouldn't be fighting for resources after this went down. We need to put the pedal down, get them everything we need, and really understand that they are heroes. And in many ways, contagion is real, clustering is real, and we need to think about how we talk about it and how we deal with it every single day.
We certainly do. Paul, thank you so much. Terrence, thank you for lending your voice here as well. And I do want to let our viewers know, because this is a serious issue we've been talking about. We know this can be triggering for many people. If you or anyone you know is struggling, please know there is help. Please call the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline at 1-800-273-8255.